Great. Thank you very, very much. And I see my presentation is there. Good. Okay, so let me start right away. I'll just check to see if my slide is working. Yes, it works very well. Fantastic. So, all right. So my talk is how to learn and master the top 6 project management techniques. That's what I'm going to discuss. And the best way, of course, to begin is, well, tell you them directly. And I'm going to do that. The first one is how to create a project charter or project description or a project canvas. So it's to get the project off on the right footing. And we as a project manager have to have this skill as a basis in order to get the project at the right direction. Secondly, the next skill is how to do a work breakdown structure or a deliverable breakdown structure. Now, this is not so easy because you cannot just do it, but you've got to facilitate that workshop as well and remind people it can take many cycles and build trust and so on. So it takes a while, but it's a master skill to be able to get. When we do our breakdown, we identify lots of deliverables. And then for each deliverable, we will work out the specification sometime in the project before, of course, we give it out to be done. Again, there's a nice simple technique that project managers should be able to do to get this. The next is planning and scheduling. So surround yourself with the appropriate people, know how to schedule or plan your project, and then to communicate that to others. That's the fourth skill. Fifth skill, which I won't touch on much, I'll just talk about a little bit, is how to use an online application in order to centralize all your data and to be able to radiate information about the project and to have confidence in doing this as well. That's key. And the last one is having a project approach to follow, which is easy for everybody in the project to understand what you're talking about. And it's also easy to explain to other people. Now, I'm going to go through all of these again in detail and show you how we get these across. Now, there's something that links all of these together, and that's the following: facilitation. Because we think that the most important technique or the most important skill a project manager has to have, or what they do, is communication or talking. No, it's facilitation. And there's a lot of listening involved in that as well. So, how to learn these techniques. Now, this slide is really cool because it shows you how much we retain after a typical training. Maybe even after, if somebody asks you in 1 month's time, what did you learn or what did you remember from what I spoke about? Because this is a lecture and a reading type, you will remember less than 10%. Okay, that's very little. And that's how most training is done today, which is a pity. If we do audiovisual, because people can watch it again, that's 20, we're getting better. If we do demonstrations work, because we get know-how from inside companies, that's better. If you do group discussions, so we learn more from each other, that's even better. But look at the next one. Doing exercises, that is 75%. Okay, that is amazing. So just imagine if you could follow a project management training where you're doing exercises all of the time. And that's the way to learn the techniques, the 6 techniques which I've just learned or which I've just spoken about. That's really, really key. Because otherwise you just sit in a classroom and this information just falls over your head and you don't want to do that. Okay, so how to master and how to use these techniques. The first one, which I mentioned before, is the project canvas. So the most important thing to begin with is have a template to work with. So you have know-how. Then you have know the questions to ask to fill in every part of that project canvas. So to draw the information out from the audience which you have gathered in front of you. Okay. And next, be able to facilitate it. Be able to ask questions, repeat the question, listen, and then write it down on a big board or something like that. So hopefully you can all see that screen, but it doesn't really matter on the questions, but you see on the purpose alone, I give 3 questions and you just ask the questions or answer the questions which are appropriate for that project. Maybe only 1 question is appropriate or maybe even 2, but Everybody's around trying to answer that together. That's the important thing. Next, we have our expected the benefits. So these can be short-term benefits or long-term benefits. So we try to make them measurable as well. Thanks for blowing that up for me. That's really great. The next will be our requirements. So our quality expectations. So how to make sure that we have high-level information there. Next will be who's who in the project. Of course, this will continue to be updated during the project as well, as we figure out who to work with and how to communicate with them. And lastly, our expected cost and duration. So there's lots of questions. Use the questions as tools for filling this in. And the most important skill is facilitation. So that's it for the project charter or project description document. Next one, project breakdown structure. Okay, so or a work breakdown structure, as many people know it. So this can be done either using Post-its or using an online application. To move the application forward. 1 second. I hit a problem. 1 second. I've got to reload my app, I think. Yes, okay, it's done. Good. The second point there is know the questions to ask, to draw out the information from the people in the audience, and stop talking, because the information has to come from the people in their room that you've brought in there. Okay, and that's an example of what we can probably end up with after maybe 2 or 3 iterations of trying to do that workshop. It doesn't all have to happen immediately. Now, there's some things to remember when we're doing like a work breakdown structure. One is start small. You've got to start small. You cannot think you're going to get all this done at the one time. Know the questions to keep asking. In that way, you gain trust from everybody in the room and allow the room to build a mind map, not you. You're just facilitating. Remind people there are no bad suggestions. Just write everything on the board and don't allow them to go down and discuss specifications. Keep it high level. Keep it product level based. Okay. That's for technique 2. Technique 3 is deliverable specifications. Again, so for each item we identify, we want to provide specifications for it. So give examples for this. Again, know the questions to ask to extract the specifications, and stop talking. That's hard for a project manager sometimes, but it's important. This is an example of a front door, a very crap example of a front door. So, for example, we need a front door for the house. It doesn't say anything. And then you have the specifications, and they're all bad. And they're all bad on purpose. But that's the wrong way. A better way to write a specification is to have a clear purpose. So we define the box that people are going to write the requirements inside. So thinking inside the box, not outside the box, is what we should be doing. We list the specifications. You can see there, door thickness, gap beneath the door, the lock. And we quantify everything that we put. And even a 12-year-old kid can come along and read these and say, hey, I understand what's got to be done. And that's so easy to give out to somebody, get them to do it. We don't care how they do it as long as they deliver this back to us. Next one is planning and scheduling. It's good to have a preferred application. So ask around you in your industry which type of application that people are using. Try to get experience on that. Know who to depend on to give you good information to create your plan and your schedule. Make sure they're in the room and be as curious as possible. Ask them as many questions as possible. Okay, so we can go directly from your breakdown structure, which can be a Post-its or a mind map, into like a Kanban board or into a Gantt chart and work through this, and then use that plan as a high-level plan for the rest of the project, and then a low-level plan for every part that we break it up. All right. Online application, as I said, I'm not going to mention much here, except to say that whatever application you wish to use, you're supposed to have your data in one place. That makes you very comfortable as a project manager and increases our own confidence when we start. And keep it simple, keep it very simple, and stay product focused. So don't worry about defining all the tasks or all of the activities that the teams will do. No, just stay at the product level, and that will simplify your whole approach. If you go down to the other level, you'll never come back up and you will lose track of your project. So don't go there. A good online application can act as a project radiator. I love that word. I think it's from Agile, but it radiates information about your project in a very easy to read style by all the members of the project team. Great. And the last one is a minimalist project approach. No matter where you come from, if you have a PMP or Agile PM or Prince 2 cert, they're all quite difficult to implement. So you need a simple process where you can use all that good knowledge you have and then use that on a project and share with people. So we need to use our knowledge that we have, easy to explain, easy to implement for your company or for department or for your project as well. So what I'm going to discuss here is something called PG Express. It's sponsored by the community, so by the EC, I mean. So what is PG Express? Well, it's based on a community of volunteers. It's a minimalist approach to project management. It's based on the 80-20 rule, so 20% of all the documentation you might find in other methodologies, but it fits 80% of the projects which are alive today, so you can use it, which is great. My phone has gone crazy again. Just 1 second. I have to reboot. Great. It's for simplicity in its approach, and simplicity is the ultimate sophistication, like as Leonardo da Vinci has said as well, or me, I get mixed up. And the last one, it's completely open source. So it's a bit like open source software in such a way that anybody can use this. It's open for everybody. That's the idea. This is it. So it's light in its approach. We have our project initiation. Depending on how predictive or adaptive you are, you can decide how much to add to break down your project up front. We break the project up into monthly cycles. We remind the project manager what they have to do on a weekly basis. We remind what to do on a daily basis. And then you close out of the month as well. And then we keep repeating the cycles until project closure. Now, the beauty of this diagram is it's very calming and it's very easy to explain to other people how you were getting on in your project. And reminder again, no matter where you come from, with Prince 2 or PMI or PMP or Agile PM, you can use this light or minimalist framework to run your project and still use that knowledge, which is good. There is an online manual available. It's only about 40 pages in length. We do have many languages, and actually we're putting together a team of volunteers for Lithuanian at the moment, which is good. This is it coming up here. Okay, so how we teach it. This is how we give a workshop and how we teach these techniques, just to give you an idea. And we can share this information, this training material with anybody. So if you want to train other people, then it's possible for you to do that. We make it freely available for you. So this is how we do it. We start off with a project scenario and we say, okay, read this information. Now you are the project manager. Your students are the candidates, but you are the project manager. Take on this role and take ownership of this project. And the very first activities you have to do are appoint the sponsor. So identify the sponsor in the scenario, own it, or nominate and own it. You'll be the project manager, and then identify other key people in the project that you would like in your project, and you own that information as well. Okay, that's good. Then we have our first document on the project charter, and we can fill in something like this, or each participant fills in something like this bit by bit. So they fill in the purpose, the objectives, the high-level requirements, the different stakeholders which they get from the scenario, and extra questions that they can ask as well, the expected benefits and so on. So this is the kind of information, and this sort of sets your project then off on the right direction if you get this from the beginning. Next, we have to break down the project. So they will use probably a mind map or post-its in order to break down the project and create something like this, which is fantastic. It will take a while for them to do it, but they learn how to do it. Then for some of the deliverables, they will look at specifying or adding deliverable specifications in a format like this, so they will understand the process and be able to fill in the information like that. It's good. And then they go into planning, so we can use like a Kanban board, or we can use a Gantt chart, but again, it's up to them on which to use in order to make sure that they can display this information or make this information available to other people on their team. So again, it's not just slides, Everybody in the class does the work themselves. That's the whole idea. It's a very practical training, and so on. So we go through like that through the whole project. So it's really a practical way of learning and mastering these techniques. And that's it. Now I have a little gift for you. I'm almost done, but I have a little gift for you, which is sponsored by the European community. So you'll be glad to hear that. Oops, I have to reboot again. 1 second. Good. This is a project simulation, and let me explain it on the next slide. It's easier. So how it works. It's like a game, and I don't like to use the word game, but it's like a game. So you log into this website, you become the project manager, you're given some information, and then you have to make decisions. Now, it could be a good decision or a bad decision, but if it's a bad decision, we give you more information to help you, and then you can make a better decision next time. Then you're given more information, you make another decision, and so on. And you guide the project from the beginning to the end. Okay, that's it. So it's really good. It's a nice way of learning project management. So the good thing about this is it's free. It's very engaging because you're inside you are the project manager inside the program. It's interactive because you're deciding which way to go. You follow the whole project management process, and you can see changes to documents as new information is coming in, which is great. And you can even see the work breakdown structure or deliverable map changing on new information coming in as well. So definitely have a go on that one. It takes about 3 to 6 hours to do. I have the links on the last slide, so that will come up at the end. So don't worry if you don't get that right now. So a reminder of the top tips, which I mentioned, actually top 6 tips or techniques, are be able to do a project description to be able to facilitate this, be able to do a work breakdown structure, know the questions to ask to get that done, be able to facilitate deliverable specifications, pull that information out, be able to plan the project, understand that technique, be able to use an online application, that's for sure, and understand a flow to your project. And if you don't have one, then you can use something like PG Express because it'll make your life much easier. And that's it. So I think that was my last slide. Let me see. Yeah, that was it. So I've covered everything I wanted to say. And you can, if you don't have those links, you can take your camera out and take a photo of it if you wish. So you have them there.